for your girl. So here we go. Today's real rankings, since we only have one game left, is going to be on quarterbacks that are going to be available by hook or crook any way you can get them, because as Key said, if you want out, you can get out. Some are available if you do a little bit of digging. So Key's top 6 quarterbacks available. Here we go, starting with number 6.
You know, I believe in Cam Newton. I think that the situation in New England was so dire with no real skill position players around him. They struggled all year long. He struggled to find his form in the passing game, but by no means is he done as a top-shelf quarterback in the NFL. I think he could get back to form. I've seen movies like this before. Right landing spot, right tools, right players around him. You could see him with the Washington football team, which would be very, very interesting at number 6.
So he would go from the NFC East to the AFC East. Speaking of the latter, number 5, currently residing in the AFC East as well.
Look, he's not quite available yet, but he is available depending on what the Jets are looking for in Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold's a young, talented guy that was drafted in the position he was drafted in because the New York Jets at the time felt like his ability to do some things on the run, perimeter in terms of throwing the football, doing those sort of things, getting some players around him, being a leader. I think you will get a fantastic player in Sam Darnold. As long as the New York Jets understand that, don't just throw him away. If you hire the right offensive coaches and the right head coach, which you did, I think he could have a bright future in New York. But just in case you want to get rid of him, he can land somewhere pretty for somebody.
At number 4, Mike Tannenbaum, our front office insider, said this yesterday. He could not imagine how many people around the league are so disappointed, especially in San Francisco, with how this guy is done with this team.
Look, it's not as big a disappointment, I think, as people want to try to make it out to be. I think people, for some reason, the Jimmy G sex appeal has gone away. It was San Francisco going to the Super Bowl, watching him not deliver the ball at times in the Green Bay game, in the NFC Championship game, and then again in the divisional round against the Minnesota Vikings when they took the football out of his hands. That kind of was the start of the demise for Jimmy Garoppolo, and then they lose the Super Bowl. The guy led them to the Super Bowl. Then they lose the Super Bowl. So I think John Lynch, along with Kyle Shanahan, has some decisions to make at the quarterback spot. What do they want to do with that? Because I think Jimmy G is capable of being a managing style quarterback in the National Football League. Let's face it, he did have some success. Everything wasn't all failure.
No, speaking of getting to the Super Bowl and losing it in devastating fashion, Key, number 3.
Matt Ryan, big Matty Ice. I like Matt Ryan not only as a quarterback but as a person. I think if he lands in the right spot again, you can start to see him have some success at that position. He struggled along with the Atlanta Falcons this year, and he hasn't been the same style quarterback since losing Kyle Shanahan after that Super Bowl when Coach Shanahan left to go to the San Francisco 49ers. That could be a reunion for Matt Ryan back to San Francisco. He'll regain his form. They got a bunch of young, talented skill position players over there. Matty Ice could be on the block.
Number 2, every single guy Key has mentioned at this point might be moved. Number 2, if you believe what people are saying, and that's a leap in the NFL, you never know, this guy is going to be on the move.
Well, it's not a leap. The Detroit Lions, as well as Matthew Stafford, have come to an agreement to shop him this offseason. And Matthew Stafford is a quarterback that, if he stays healthy, could be one of the top quarterbacks out there for a team next year. A guy, every single year he shows up, he throws for tons and tons of yards, but they never make it to the playoffs. They never win. He doesn't have all of the necessary tools around him. I think they were on the right move with Jim Caldwell several years ago before they went to somebody that came from New England. So I'll leave that alone. But when you think about it, he's a hell of a quarterback. And if somebody can get him out there, they got themselves a steal for the next 3 to 4 years.
And apparently the reporting says Matt Patricia is returning to New England in some sort of consultant role.
I said leave it alone. You mentioned his name.
Sorry about it. At number 1, let's be realistic. Rodgers is not realistic. Number 1 is the number 1 guy everyone covers.
And you mentioned it. Aaron Rodgers is not realistic. I want to be as real as possible here. Aaron Rodgers has yet to really add the fire. I mean, I know he mentioned it, but Deshaun Watson is liking people's Twitter accounts and Instagrams. He was seen and spotted throughout the tri-state area in New York. He's moving around. There's a lot of smoke, right? There's a whole bunch of smoke around him, so that means there's a fire somewhere in terms of the Texans. They botched the hiring of Eric Bieniemy, or hiring in general of a head coach. So I think that even adds more frustration to Deshaun Watson. And then it's out there. It's out there in the circles, whether it's Adam Schefter reporting it or some other network reporting it. It's out there. Somebody's saying something in that camp of Deshaun Watson, and it's well known. And they're going to start fielding calls as soon as they can to figure out what people want to do to try to get their star quarterback. It's a shame that the Texans have botched this so much. It's a damn shame.
It's like 101 on how not to do things. They're going to have like college courses on it. How not to do
They're
things.
interviewing anybody that want to be interviewed. They interviewed Josh McCown.
Yeah.
And then tried to sell it to us like it's a good idea. People really, really was selling the Josh McCown interviews like it was a good idea. Like, stop.
We'll see. All right, so Jay, on the other side, we got to sell this segment on the other half. Key just gave us the 6 guys that he thinks are the most available and most coveted when they become available. The second half of this equation, of course, is, well, where do they land, right?
Exactly.
That's the fun part of this, and you get the fun part of this. Again, Key going in reverse order. Cam 6, Darnold 5, Jimmy G 4, Matt Ryan 3, Stafford 2, Deshaun Watson 1. Let's start from front to back. Here we go to try to figure out where these dudes will land. Cam, what do you think?
I actually agree with Key on Cam. I think a reunion with Ron Rivera for the Washington football team, considering Alex Smith played great this year, but you don't know if he's durable throughout the course of his career with that injury. And I would love to see Cam in the NFC East with that defense that they have. I think it could be really dynamic connection between him and Ron Rivera.
Is Sam going anywhere?
Excuse me? I didn't hear what you said.
Sam Darnold going anywhere, do you think?
Oh, we're going down to 5? I think Sam Darnold probably ends up staying with the Eagles, but for the sake of this, Key, what do you think about him going to Pittsburgh? What do you think about him being a successor to Ben Roethlisberger and playing within that scheme? Obviously, another great defense, a guy that can actually take some time and try to play there. What do you think?
You know, Pittsburgh is a good spot, landing spot. The problem with Pittsburgh is they just signed Dwayne Haskins. And I've seen this before and we saw it with the New York Jets when they had all those quarterbacks and Teddy Bridgewater they acquired, and then they moved on from Teddy Bridgewater and moved him to New Orleans. So it could happen. Maybe Pittsburgh would like to trade for him, even though they just signed Dwayne Haskins, and they get a look at both of them before they make a decision on which one they want to go with. But, you know, the fact that they signed Dwayne Haskins kind of makes me believe, Zubin, that Sam Darnold probably isn't in play in Pittsburgh.
I think he probably ends up staying with the Eagles moving forward. You know, I think that's probably going to be the team he's going to end up staying with, Zubin.
All right, so we'll see. Once again, Cam, Darnold, Jimmy G, Ryan, Stafford, and all
Sorry,
roads,
the Jets. I don't know. I'm having brain farts this morning. Sorry.
All roads lead to Watson.
Hey, man, it was going to Pluto. I was letting it just go. I wasn't going.
It's all right, man.
I wasn't even going to correct you.
Zubin wasn't going to correct me, though. That's when you reach to the microphone and you slap somebody.
No, you said it twice, and I was just going to let it go and just let it go to Pluto, man. It's gone.
You've been hanging around Boomer too much, which is actually true.